I often find that when people talk about Super Mario Brothers, they often go straight into talking about how fun it felt to play that game when they were kids or how many good memories they have associated with the game. But if we were to slow down and look at the very first level, it's basically a lesson in storytelling through design. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about Mario because level 1-1 of Super Mario Bros. Has been over explained and analyzed in many other videos that would probably do a much better job at it than I would, but I do want to bring it up to frame this video. At first, there's no enemies, it's just a little bit of space to walk. Maybe you try a jump. That opening moment is the ordinary world. It's safe and it's plain. The first Goomba is the call to action. It's small, but it's enough to force the player to make a decision. If they jump too late, they die. Probably every single player in the world dies the first time. That failure is like a miniature refusal of the call, the moment when the player has to decide, do I try again and keep going, or do I quit? Just like any other good call to action. A few steps later, you encounter your first blocks. When you hit it, a mushroom pops out. It might seem intuitive to you to touch that mushroom because we have been hard coded into doing so. But if this was the first time you were ever playing a platformer, ever, or the first time you ever heard of Mario and the mushrooms, most players usually run away from the mushroom. Early playtesters of Mario would often try to avoid the mushroom thinking it would hurt them. So the designers placed a pipe just in the right spot. The mushroom bounces off of it, it turns towards you, and almost forces you to discover it. We find out that the mushroom is a gift. We find out it's not a threat. It's essentially our first mentor figure. It becomes a lesson that things in this world can help you grow, but they can also kill you, like the Goomba. And by the time you reach that flagpole, you've played through a complete arc. You may not notice it because it's just a simple map that everyone has played hundreds of times, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. You have started safe, you've faced danger, you received guidance, you've crossed a threshold, survived a series of trials, and reached a small victory. I want to jump a little bit forward in time and talk about Celeste, one of my favorite platformers of all time, and perhaps even one of my favorite games regardless of genre. Celeste opens with a mountain that looks impossible. First steps are quiet, they're small rooms that show you how to climb walls, how to hold on to your stamina, how to dash, but each room teaches you a single idea. The next rooms then treat it a little bit harder. You combine the things you've learned to this point. It's like the game is speaking to you through the architecture and through the design. The designer is teaching you without using actual words. Madeline's story is written directly into this rhythm. Every failed jump and every restart echoes her self-doubt. The mountain doesn't just represent the challenge in front of her. The mountain reflects the anxiety that she carries with her. As you progress through the game, you reach Badeline, a shadow version of Madeline, who makes that struggle literal. All the encounters you have with her feel like a boss fight, but they're also arguments with yourself. You're forced to face the part of Madeline that says, I'm not capable, and the parts that want you to turn back. These are the refusals of the call. This is the main character dealing with inner struggles to refuse that call to action. This is the resistance of growth. It shows up here as both narrative and gameplay. Later, the game pulls everything together. Madeline falls, literally and figuratively, and the climb seems over. And then the turning point comes when she stops fighting Badeline and instead accepts her as part of herself. Mechanically, this changes the way that you play. You get a new dash, you gain more movement, you gain more freedom, and it unlocks the possibility of reaching that summit. What I love about Celeste is that the transformation happens literally in the game and in the buttons that you press. Even for players who want more than the main campaign, Strawberries and the punishing B-sides and C-sides extend these arcs. They're not required for you to play through them. I don't push myself to play them as much as I probably should because they're not required. They're self-imposed trials, optional tests of mastery for anyone who feels compelled to take them. These are the side quests. These are the extra labors that a hero has to take in order to grow in different ways. These paths are only chosen by few. Celeste carries the hero's journey inward. The climb is about persistence, it's about facing your own self-doubt, it's about reconciliation with yourself, and finally, it's about renewal and transformation. The remarkable thing about this game is you get to experience it and live it through the rhythm of your own hands in the controller. Then we have another classic, Super Meat Boy. Super Meat Boy tells one of the simplest stories in any game, simpler than the first Super Mario Bros. Meat Boy is a boy made of meat who wants to save his girlfriend, Bandage Girl. However, Dr. Fetus keeps stealing her away. And that's it. I mean, that's the whole story. There's no dialogue. There's a couple cutscenes here and there that are very, very basic and simple. There's not a lot of world building. So this story is really thin. I don't think anyone can argue against that. But the journey of it is thick with rhythm and failure and persistence, just like Madeline's in Celeste. The first thing that you notice is how fragile Meat Boy is. If you touch basically anything that isn't a platform, you die. You have to start over. In most games, dying and restarting is a little bit punishing. You usually have to go through a couple scenes, you have to click through different menus, but in Super Meat Boy, dying and restarting is immediate. You respawn in less than a second. There's no pause and there's nothing left, and there's no time for you to dwell on your failure. The game actually encourages you to try and try and try again, dying and dying and dying. Each level is a threshold. You walk in and you're trying to get to Bandage Girl on the other side. But in between you and her, there's several walls of blades, moving platforms, salt, anything you can imagine that will kill you. You know failure is coming, but somehow the player learns the dance. It becomes a beautiful rhythmic motion. Early on, it's just a single jump over a pit, like in Mario. But before long, now you're jumping and moving quickly just by the end of the first couple levels. The worlds in this game also escalate like chapters in a classic story. The forest is a little bit more playful and dangerous, but then the hospital is cruel and dripping with hazards. Salt Factory is even harsher, and then we're in literal hell. Each new setting is slightly darker, slightly stranger, slightly harder to survive, and it's not random. Every single piece of these levels was tied together by a developer in order for you to learn and to experience the hero's journey through gameplay. In Super Meat Boy, the hero's journey isn't a straight line from ordinary to triumph. Each level is its own cycle. The hero's journey myth here is stripped down to its very core. Love as motivation, the hero rescuing the princess. As outdated as it can be and as simple as it can be, that's what Super Meat Boy is doing, and it does it fantastically. Persistence is the trial, and endurance is the transformation. If you keep playing, you realize that every failure isn't really wasted. You learn so much about the story through your hands. Now let's talk about Hollow Knight. And yes, I'm really excited for Silksong finally coming out a couple weeks from now, but I want to focus on the classic Hollow Knight. This game starts in a place that feels almost empty. Quiet town, most houses are sealed, the air is empty. This is the ordinary world before a fragile descent. The second you fall down that hole, the tone changes immediately. The caverns of Hollow Nest are uncharted, and the game doesn't hand you a complete map at all. You have to fill in all the gaps by exploring. Each area in Hollow Knight deepens the descent. Some areas are overgrown, other places are desolate, other places are complicated and hazardous. They're not just new backdrops created to change the ambience, they're also entirely different character arcs. There's bosses that rise out of nowhere, there's hornets that test your skills. Every time you fight something, it feels like a confrontation with both the world's history and your own persistence in the game. Every time you earn a new power, a double jump, a shadow dash, a new attack, these are not framed as gifts from your mentors usually. These are things that you have to dig out of the ruins yourself, things you have to struggle for at every point. And I think the best part of that, like most Metroidvanias, new doors open and spaces that you used to know become so much more than they were before. You are now allowed to explore all of these places a little bit deeper. The journey keeps on looping back on itself, and by doing so, it shows you how far you've grown. Hollow Knight representation of the hero's journey is a pilgrimage into silence. Each bench is a small sanctuary, each map update is a ritual. Even though you return stronger every time, the world around you is still broken, and your place in its cycle is just another fragile link. The real reward in this game is perspective, and the story lingers in its stillness long after you've put down the controller. When you look at these three games side by side, the hero's journey comes through in very different shapes. Like we've said before, in Celeste, the climbs feel like an inward struggle. In Super Meat Boy, the journey is stripped down to sheer endurance. In Hollow Knight, the journey feels like a pilgrimage. All three follow the same arc of thresholds, ordeals, and some form of return, but all of them frame and refract it differently. One is a story of personal reconciliation, the other one is just persistence, and the third is a mournful exploration of silence and decay. All of these together show why the hero's journey still resonates in games. It's not a strict formula, and it's not just a story that characters go through. It's something that we go through with the characters. Platformers allow the hero's journey to be tangible. They give us a cycle that we can feel in our own hands and allow us to come out of it changed and transformed. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I haven't been active the past few weeks. I'm going to try to get back in the groove. So feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, words of motivation, anything that you like about these games, any other platformers you enjoy. There are so many out there that I always love to learn about them and think about them critically. With that being said, I hope you have a beautiful day. I'm Baby Llama, and I'll see you on the next one.